Okay, welcome to Satsang. Today we're going to cover a mystery word. um, this word is familiar, but we can never understand it because it defies any mental definition. Because it's applied to everything and yet nothing. But yet, when we start to apply it, as it came to me how to do it, okay, we can see the beautiful simplicity of living the truth. Many times we ask, do accidents happen, or why do misfortunes happen? Why do things happen to us? Well, because of this mystery word, you're going to understand that nothing happens by chance. There are no accidents. And everything that happens to you can be used as a catalyst for growth. You see? So let's discuss what this word is. Many years ago, and unfortunately I don't remember the name of this famous writer. This was many years ago, but it left an impression on me. And this famous writer was talking to his son. And his son went over to his dad with an earnest look, with a great need to understand. And he said, "Dad," he said, "who and what is God?" And the father looked at his son, and he knew at that moment he had to be very careful how to answer such a question, because his son can be greatly influenced by the answer. So he reflected, and the son is looking with anticipation at his dad, what he's going to say. So finally his dad looked at his son. He took a long pause, purposeful pause, and he said, "Son," he said, "God is. God is." And you know the amazing thing is, and I always remember reading that article, the son beamed. He might have been 8 or 9 years old, I'm not sure. He walked away as if he understood, and he never asked again. No, this is the mystery word, is. The word is. Can you define it? Can you say what it is? Can you in any way explain it? You can't. But we can begin to understand how it is applied and how it reaches the intuitive heart. Okay, so how we can go about it, the intuitive, the is. I made a little diagram here. As you can see, this is a circle with a dot in the middle, okay? And I hope it was clear for you in the camera. It's just a circle with a dot in the center. Now, all of life is made up of this circle and a dot. This is the surface that seems to be happening. This, the center, is what is truly happening. And how do we arrive at that? Well, first of all, the circumstance is this, that it's a circle, because all of life is a circle. You know, the earth itself, what we call time and space, is a circle. Let me explain what I mean by that, circle. You know, when I was a kid, I used to love going to those carnival areas where you ride on a merry-go-round. You've seen the merry-go-round, right? It's made up of these wooden horses, and they gallop up and down, and they're always going circle. Well, as a kid, I used to love going on this, and this is fact. I used to love it, and I used to imagine myself in the Wild West, riding this horse. And you know, a long time would just go by, and my sister would look for me because I would get lost in this imagination, riding this horse. And all it did was go round and nothing happened. Okay, this is the circle. So This to me really typifies our world. Like, for example, we invented clocks, and in the middle part there's the 12th. We can call it noon at this point. So it goes around, goes to midnight, then goes to noon again, and to midnight again. Okay? That's time being kept in that motion. The earth rotates around the sun, and it creates what we call day and night, what we call seasons, what we call, like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then there's months, years, etc., going, But always going around in a circle. And if we really are honest with ourselves right now, we will see that everything is a circle. We get up in the morning, have breakfast, take a shower, go to work, come back, do the same thing again, maybe watch a little TV, maybe make love, go back to bed, get up in the morning and start all over again. Everything is a circle. How do we get out of this circle? You see, this is where it gets interesting. By getting into that center of things. But how do we do that? See, first of all, when we get to know the mind, when we get to know all activity, is that always there's a happening. But this happening is. So it's always a circle, always repeating itself over and over again. But you see, we see it in a different way. This is where it gets interesting. For example, everything that is happening to you, everything. Right now, what is happening here? You're sitting here watching Burt talk, okay? So this is the happening. Another few hours you'll be going home. That is what is happening. But you will find that this happening always repeats, because if you go home, then you're going to leave home. Wherever you go, you're going to go back home. In other words, it keeps repeating over and over again. So the is of everyday life is everything that is happening. Now, can we define is as good or bad, right or wrong? Can we?
Not really.
No, not really. That's the best beautiful lesson. Is just is. You got it so far. That's already a beautiful step ahead, because we're so ready to judge, we're so ready to jump, we're so ready to make up our minds, this is wrong, and we need to change it. But we'll begin to understand that when we understand is, we will find everything is okay. But the point is, how do we understand what is really is, you see? What really is follows 3 steps, but we're going to go into it a little bit more later on to discover how we get into the center. There are 3 ways that explain is, okay? The moment you look at what is happening, you always look at the circle, at the circumference, which is called the surface, the becoming. Always becoming, but like all the masters tell you, everything seems to be happening, but man, nothing is happening. Okay? It's just a circle. Okay, so the surface is immediately perceived by us as whatever comes to our mind first thing, based on our conditioning. Then we reach a second point, when we look at what is happening on the surface, is that we judge it. We judge it good or bad, right or wrong, according to how we have been brought up, how we've been conditioned, our tradition, our religion, our nationality, our parental training, our scholastic education, etc. We judge it accordingly. And then there is a third one, which will help us the most. It's called reaction. And these 3 things happen all at once. There is always a reaction, because anything that you look at the surface, okay, immediately hits you as an action, which to you, something is real, something is happening. But the truth, nothing is real. Okay, just like my Byron Katie says, when people say this is happening, he says, how real is it? You see? Okay. But we make it real. Because we make it real, we go back to the second one. The second one is, this is the judgment that we make on it. The judgment is very personal, is how you see it. Okay? The third one is how the judgment came about is by your reaction to it. You see? And this is how we understand the is. One time I had a woman and she came to see me and she was very, very flustered. And she said, as I was coming, Bert, she said, this is true case. She said, as I was coming, she said, I saw a man beat his dog. He said he was beating him so badly, you know, he was even kicking it. She says, she was so upset. She was absolutely livid, you know. So I had her come down and we talked about it, you know. And so I said, okay, now let's talk about your reaction to it. She said, you know, what do you mean reaction? She said, that was a very awful thing, a bad thing that happened. And then, as we dealt, talking to her, I found out that her parents used to punish her. You know, used to treat her like a dog. In other words, okay. Pardon the resemblance there, but this is just what I mean, is that how we react to something is how we are seeing life from our own personal background viewpoint. You see? So now you might say, okay, fine, you've told us, you know, we see the surface and we know how we feel, and then we judge it, which is fine, everybody's doing that, and then we have a reaction. When you make a judgment, there's always a reaction, always. Even if you see a guy and he says, gee, I don't like him, immediately you find your joy has dissipated. It's immediate. There's always a reaction to every judgment you make. But now enters the important question. Okay, so now I see what is happening, I see what is and how the is affecting me, and I also beginning to see now that there's something for me to learn, so how real is it? Maybe it's my own just personal viewpoint. So what do you do then after you judge what is happening and you have a reaction and you become aware of that? What do you do?
Nothing.
Very good. You do nothing. You see it as is. There I am reacting. See, if you were to say, I shouldn't react, you're breaking from the is. Got it?
Yeah.
So the is always leads you back. Whatever is all you need to see. You don't need to figure it out. You don't need to understand it. You don't need to study psychology and find out why they do this, why they do that. It's what is. And then when you go into what is, that what is always love. Now there's a fantastic statement. If you were to realize what I've just said, that as a leap, absolute leap in consciousness. Because when you go into your reaction, you don't judge yourself. And that's the whole point. You do exactly what Bill said. You do nothing. You see? So when you begin to do nothing, what happens? And provided, of course, you do nothing because you see that anything that you try to do is the ego feeling guilty, trying to control it, right?
You disappear.
Yeah. There's a moment of, it happened to me, but it happened to me. But there's nothing personal anymore after a while. You see what I mean? You see, you stop there and you don't take it personally. So, now the reason, like we said in the beginning, why there are accidents, why there are misfortunes, why there's so much suffering, why is there this, why is there that? Because, you see, we think in terms of separation. And when you think in terms of separation, there is guilt, because there's something lacking, as if I'm not good enough, there's something wrong with me, right? So naturally, you immediately judge whatever you see Not as is, but as you think is. You don't see it as it actually is, you see. Though the moment you see it as a reaction, the moment you become a reaction, you've really taken it to a point of self-knowledge here. And the moment you are able not to do anything about it, in other words, you don't judge yourself, that starts unconditional love. That starts the understanding. And then you will see that the things that have been happening to you in the past happened because you never accepted yourself. Wow. Because you never liked yourself. Because you always wanted to change it and control it. So this is what blocks us from is the need to control, which comes from guilt and separation, you see. I remember, you know, I played teacher for 27 years, and I've said this often enough, and I said it in my book. And this is what I realized one day, you know, and it came very, very clear. I said, here you are, I'm really having one failure after another in my relationships. I was married 3 times, and, you know, what's wrong with me? And then just like a voice said, there's nothing wrong. You see, you're not seeing things as you are. You know, life is actually a script. And you go through that script because you created it in order for you to learn what you need to learn. But if you judge yourself for it, then you haven't learned it, have you? Because the moment you judge it as wrong, there's no unconditional love, there's no self-compassion. So now you have to repeat it again and again and again and again and again. Sometimes it can become traumatic, sometimes it become dysfunction. But the point is that the moment you start accepting that everything is okay, you have entered, you've started to break that vicious circle, and you're now entering the center. You see? And it's been said that when someone enters that center, the center of the circle, which is, we see, because the circle is a becoming, and this is being. So the moment you become to see the is as it is, you're always peaceful no matter what is happening. You're always in equilibrium, you're always in balance, because you're not wrong or right, you're not a bad person or even a good person. You just is. You is.
Anything else is you're a squirrel in a cage.
Exactly. It's no longer even a merry-go-round, it is a treadmill. Right. So therefore you break that, you actually begin by accepting is. You go through such a shift in consciousness that you break, you know, begin to see everything that is happening is just a happening. And you don't become affected by it. So you actually transcend time and space. And that's how you enter that center, you see? So that's beautiful. Now, what I'd like to do here is, why not do a little personal exploration of how we see things. Are you willing to do that?
Sure.
Sure, okay. Yeah, and then we'll explore it and go into it, okay? Okay, who'd like to start?
I'll start.
Okay, sure.
What would...
Anything, okay. Remember when I was, before my realization happened, which was very, very clear and simple, and simplicity itself, when I looked back and I began to feel sorry for myself, and then I asked for guidance, you know, I says, you know, wow, I'm such a failure, you know. Yeah, I had a TV show, yeah, I did write a book, I did this, but that's all surface. Inside, I never felt fulfilled, I never felt, you know, complete. And then when that moment hit me, that there's nothing to know, there's only to see what is. That's it. You see? And that brought the miracle of seeing that whatever is can lead you back to that center, the moment you see it as it actually is. Okay, so now I said my piece and I repeated it just to give an example. So maybe a part.
I can, when I was in India and exploring many things, I had an awakening in the garden, and it was beautiful, and you can't even, whatever words you want to put on it. And then I was tired, and at first I said, don't go to sleep because you might lose it. But then that sense of everything is fine. So I lay down on the bench and fell asleep, and when I woke up, I was no longer in that state, and immediately my mind attacked me with a vicious thing of, how could you do that?
Right.
You've worked all this and now you went to sleep and lost it. And I was feeling just terrible about myself. And I went out because I had to, I was in a singing group.
Mm-hmm.
And I almost didn't go because I was so embarrassed about myself and who I was and what a failure I was. I mean, I had really blown the big one.
How often we think we are failures, isn't it? It is so common. And this is one thing I keep getting in emails all the time. You see, I'm failing at this relationship, I'm failing at my work, I'm failing at this. But we don't really fail unless we accept the failure as a reality.
I thought that everybody could see right through me and see what a phony and failure I was. I felt terrible. But I went anyway because I had told them I would come. And when I got there, everybody else saw something different. They were all happy to see me and joyous and welcoming, and it threw my mind into confusion.
Disorientation.
Disorientation. Because I had a whole other concept of what was happening than this reflection. So for me, I saw how my mind had tricked me into totally chaining me to the wall of failure, when really all that had happened is that I fell asleep.
Yeah.
So.
That is so beautiful. See, that's exactly how the mind tricks us to get us back on that, not merry-go-round, but the treadmill. And it keeps repeating. We can call it that's what the ego does to us, which is conditioning, you see. But we can break free by saying, I'm seeing what is. Now, what is? And you actually see it, like now talking about it and you're seeing it. And that will break free. It's as simple as that. See? Yeah. Okay, I'd like to repeat again, okay, for those of you listening. There are 3 things in order to see what is. The moment you look at whatever is, it doesn't matter. You could just walk out to the apartment and see a car going by. That's what is. Okay, you understand? It's that simple. There's nothing magical about it. Everything is what is. Oh, it's raining all of a sudden. That's what is. Okay? And even saying it to yourself brings an acceptance of what is. But you will find that no matter to what is, the mind has always tried to make it good or bad. Has always tried to make it first. Oh no, this is real. Okay? And you'll find that what is neither real nor not real, it's just a happening. Then you make a judgment on it, and then there's a reaction to that judgment. And then it affects you. And then you wonder, what affected me? You know, it was so subtle. It's all the judgments that I made about what I thought was happening. You see? But the moment you begin to allow something to be what is, okay, it changes the whole dynamic. So thank you. Is there anything you would like to say, or Jerry, or Jesse?
Are we just sharing our personal experiences?
Yeah. Just to make sure we really understand what is.
Yeah, I would like to share one thing. A few days ago, I had a dream where basically, I won't go too into it, but I was just talking to this woman and I was telling her about how everything is as it is and so forth. and she's like, oh, but I don't want to lose myself or something like that. That was pretty much the main thing about the dream that I remember. So I woke up from the dream, and then I'm like, whoa, do I really want to lose myself? And I was thinking, and then my heart started pumping really fast, and anxiety just full blown, and I started shaking and just like panicking as if it was real, that I'm really gonna lose myself. And I was just like, and I couldn't do anything but just sit there and just kind of be with it, and just like,
Yeah.
and just kind of like really just, yeah. And then that was my thing happened. And after a little
Right.
while, it just kind
No,
of like
you see
dried
how
up. The clearing
Yeah.
came out of that.
you listen to what happened.
Mhm.
You see how you judged it, and then how your body reacted. Okay, you see, like you said, we see those 3 steps, and then all you need to do is sit back for a moment and say, "Wow, look at what I was doing." That moment of saying, "Yeah, it's okay," you know, look what I was doing. That very thing, you don't need to do anything. Just that brings you takes you to a leap in understanding.
Yeah, just another cloud passing by. Some
That's
are
right.
thick, some are dark, and the darker ones are somehow more luring and more kind of come talk to me and kind of get your attention. But they also pass too. They also kind of clear up eventually, and just the sky. And the
Right,
sky, yeah.
right, yeah, and you said it so readily. It's nothing. Yeah,
No words for it.
yeah. Talk about that. Nothing.
Talk about that?
Yeah, yeah.
It's
You
like-
know, something happens, but you need to do nothing about it.
Right, right. Well, it's a hard, very easy to go blank on that one. But that's the best way to be.
No, when you feel that there's nothing to do about it, okay, why is it so effective?
Well, if you feel there's nothing to do about it, then you're absolutely peaceful and calm. Because if you feel any kind of reaction, you're going to tense up and you're going to feel your separation all of a sudden, and that's going to make you feel uptight.
Right, right. Yeah. See, anything that you intend to do about it means already you are judging it as it shouldn't be there. I need to
Yeah.
rectify it, I need to adjust it, I need to, you know. But you don't need to do anything about it at all. You see? Yeah.
It's a kind of a paradox, because if it has nothing to push against, if that energy has nothing to push against, it just goes into the space and becomes part of that, and nothing happens. But as soon as we put a yes, no, maybe, to the left, to the right, it gets something to feel itself, and it creates a sense of being real.
Yes. Yes. You see, that's the key that we need to get adjusted here, is that nothing that is happening is really real. It is. It is. But we will find that when we look at it, it isn't real because your perception was your perception. If 10 people have seen the same thing that you saw, they give it 10 different interpretations. The judgment you made is based on your conditioning, and your reaction was totally personal thing. So if you made it real, then it becomes your problem, and then you do something about it, because the moment you make it real, you want to do something about it. The moment you want to do something about it, you have exacerbated the situation, you made it worse. You see? And that's why misfortunes happen, bad luck happens, accidents happen. There are no accidents, there is nothing that happens that is not created by us, by our resistance, by our control, by our need to manipulate things from being what they are. And everything that is, is. You see?
And with that one, the mind is so subtle that it then wants to make you feel guilty for creating something. It's
yes.
such a tricky little bugger.
Yes, yes.
As opposed to being...
It always makes you feel guilty if you don't do anything about it. And if you happen to be in a relationship, that's when the conflict sometimes arises. What do you mean, Bill? You're not going to do anything about it? That man looked at me in that way, or maybe he made a pass at me. You know, I'm just playing around with this. But you see, there's always something that we need to do something about. And the moment, now you might say, you mean I never need to do anything about anything? No, that's not what we're talking about. The moment you make something real, a reaction or a judgment real, that's asking for more of this, of the situation, more suffering, in other words. You see. So, but the moment you allow it to be what it is, that very allowing, that very acceptance, takes you to that place of equanimity, of calmness, of peace. No control. See, and all that life is ever teaching us is surrender, letting go, forgiveness, relaxation, allowing. That was such a beautiful example there. Okay. So every situation in life, every situation, 98% of the time, maybe not 88, maybe 95% of the time, people do not see a happening as a happening. They react personally to it and they try to do something about it. And then the moment that happens, that's when we begin to suffer. How do we suffer? We start thinking about it. And it won't let us rest. Why doesn't it let us rest? Why does thinking won't stop?
Because we're feeding it. Because we're fixated by it.
Why are we fixated?
Because it's a habit.
It's because of guilt. Yeah. There is that primordial guilt when we were born human in a duality, human being. But we forgot or were not able to know that we are being playing the human role. So the human always felt separated, always felt as if something is missing, always felt as if he's not good enough. That primordial guilt, Course in Miracles calls it the unconscious guilt. That guilt is always there. So the moment we make a judgment, we react to something, it keeps on repeating because it's feeding back on that guilt, that we are guilty.
That we need to do something.
That we need to do something about it to be better, to resurrect, which of course doesn't happen.
Yes.
Right.
So we feel guilty, primordially, like speaking, feel guilty because we are having a hard time going back to beingness.
That's right. And why do we have a hard time going back to beingness?
Because that's where we came from, and we created this to explore, and we forgot ourselves, and we want to go back, but like, oh man, but that's the birth of Christ consciousness that's happening. It's like, wow, this is heaven, and it's just this.
That's right. So we go back to that circle. You see, this is being, the very center of being, beyond time and space. We just are. Okay? But all the time we are being pulled by that vicious circle. All the time is pulling us out of that center. You see? And the reason it's pulling out of the center because we keep identifying which we got accustomed to.